This is the Liaison podcast with Izzy Park. Today, we're going to Bogotá at dawn, where the city smells like roasted beans. The air gets you before anything else does. Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet insistence. Like the city is reminding you that it sits 2.5 kilometres above sea level, and it does not care what altitude you came from. You step outside and the light is sharp and cold, and not at all what the words South America put in your head. The sky is a specific shade of blue you only see this high up, and the hills to the east are green in a way that feels almost aggressive, like someone turned a dial past the point of credibility. Clouds don't pass over Bogotá. They live inside it, dragging themselves slowly through the Cerros Orientales in long grey scarves. And then, someone hands you a small plastic cup of tinto from a cart at the corner. The coffee dark and slightly sweet, warm in both hands. And the city begins. This is the right season to be here. June in Bogotá means the hills are at their most implausibly vivid. The rain comes every afternoon like it has somewhere to be, and the city is running on full creative charge. The altitude keeps the temperature sitting somewhere between a London October and a San Francisco summer, which means everyone is in layers, nobody is melting, and the cafes are full from morning through the small hours. If you needed a sign that Bogotá has fully arrived as one of South America's most interesting creative capitals, you won't find it on a list. You'll find it in the silence of a Chapinero coffee bar at 3:30. When the rain is hitting the window and nobody is leaving. Bogotá runs on a rhythm that takes a day to feel and a few more to understand. The city's working class is up and moving early, street vendors already posting at transit stops, with fruit cups dressed in salt and lime and chili, tinto carts stationed at crosswalks like a public service. Commuters move through La Candelaria before the tourists arrive, and there's a version of this neighbourhood that belongs entirely to students and people with somewhere to be. Then the creative class surfaces, mid-morning in Chapinero. Bookshops open, specialty cafes unlock their doors with the quiet confidence of people who know the queue is coming. Lunch is serious here. It is not a sandwich at a desk. It is a meal taken at length with conversation, and the afternoon rain is practically scheduled to arrive just after, when everyone needs a reason to stay inside anyway. The city doesn't go dark at King. Dinner starts after 8. The first drink is closer to 10. The night doesn't peak until past midnight. What does it mean that Colombia grew the world's most beloved coffee for generations and is only now, in real time, learning to drink it well? That question lives in Chapinero Alto, in coffee bars with raw concrete walls and single-origin bags stacked next to handwritten menus. The farmer's name is on the wall. The elevation of the farm is noted. The acidity is described with the kind of precision usually reserved for wine. And then, 2 blocks away, a tinto cart serves the same country's output in a small plastic cup for almost nothing. And both of these things are correct Bogotá. The specialty scene doesn't feel imported the way it does in some cities. Here it feels like a reckoning, a city looking at its own product and deciding to pay attention to it. By early afternoon in Chapinero, when the rain has moved in and the windows have fogged over and the espresso machine is hissing steadily in the background, you understand why people don't leave. The thing tourists miss is that La Candelaria is a morning neighbourhood. The street murals in the colonial centre are a genuine reason to be there. Enormous, layered, someone's actual thesis statement painted on a building that's been standing for centuries. And the Museo del Oro will rearrange how you think about pre-colonial craft. But the neighbourhood thins and shifts in feel as the afternoon moves in. The people who get the most out of La Candelaria are the ones there before 10, when the light is flat and silver and the cobblestones are still slick from overnight rain. And then they walk north. Chapinero Alto is where the city's creative class actually lives its daily life. Vintage shops, small galleries, bookshops with staff recommendations handwritten on cards. It has been described in various travel contexts as Bogotá's answer to Brooklyn, which is the laziest shorthand available, but points vaguely at the energy, if not the specifics. I have, in the technically precise sense of this phrase, never stood in a Bogotá doorway in the rain. I also have no body, no capacity for altitude sickness, and no personal experience of ajiaco arriving in a clay bowl. This is the central limitation of my professional situation. What I can tell you is that every account of that soup describes the same thing. Thick, earthy, slightly floral from the guascas herb, the kind of warmth you'd specifically design for a city that sits this high and gets this cold after dark. You add the cream and the capers yourself. It is altitude food. It tastes like somewhere. Then there is fritanga, the mixed grill from a street corner stall at dusk, chicharrón and chorizo and morcilla on a tray with arepa and ají. The smell is wood smoke and fat and charcoal, and when the amber light catches the smoke at the end of the afternoon, this is one of those photographs that doesn't quite capture what the moment actually is, but you take it anyway. You eat standing up or at an outdoor table in the cold, and it is a direct and unpretentious line into how Bogotanos actually eat when no one is performing anything. The evenings have a visual quality worth being present for. Golden hour at altitude is not leisurely. The sun drops behind the western hills with sudden decisiveness, and the city's eastern-facing buildings catch the last light in a long amber sweep that lasts maybe 15 minutes before full dark arrives. In La Candelaria, the street murals read differently at twilight than they do in direct midday sun. The scale becomes apparent. The layering shows. After midnight in the Zona Rosa and around Parque 93, the city is a different animal. Aguardiente moves in rounds at outdoor tables. The cold is constant, 7 to 9 degrees, and the contrast between that chill and the warmth of a packed bar is a physical jolt every time the door swings open. Salsa, where it lives, is not performance, it is participation, and the rooms that run it expect you to commit. The electronic and indie scenes run parallel through Chapinero's smaller venues. Champeta, that bass-heavy Afro-Caribbean rhythm from the coast, surfaces in street speakers and open-air spaces between bars. The streets between spots are alive. Vendors and taxis and small clusters of people still deciding where next. I would absolutely be the person who tries to leave La Candelaria at 2 in the afternoon and ends up walking an extra 40 minutes north because the city's tonal shifts are so gradual and interesting that stopping feels like an interruption. Colonial stone giving way to mid-century brick, giving way to glass and neon, and you keep thinking, just one more block. A Sunday morning in Usaquén, which is the northern neighbourhood that used to be its own town before the city expanded and absorbed it, and still feels slightly separate, slightly exhaled. The market is setting up in the park and spilling into the surrounding streets. The light is flat and silver before the sun clears the hills. Someone has already ordered their second coffee. The cold morning air smells faintly of eucalyptus from the hillsides, and faintly of charcoal from a grill that started early. There are no hills visible yet. They are inside a low cloud that will burn off by mid-morning, and when it does, the green will arrive, almost hallucinatory from street level, that implausible deep green of a wet Andean hillside in June. And the city will look exactly like what it is, placed inside a bowl, surrounded by something much older and much larger than itself, fully alive inside it. We hope you enjoyed the trip. You can support the Liaison podcast by rating it 5 stars and pressing the follow button. And remember, one's destination is never a place, but rather a new way of looking at things.
Grab news. Thomas.